Hi, I'm Nick. I was born and raised in Chicago, and like most people from Chicago, I love pizza. And no, I am not clickbaiting you. Over the last 6 months, I have eaten this recipe many times and have lost a significant amount of weight in the process. The key to eating any food while simultaneously losing weight is to choose the right ingredients to not only fit into your macros, but keep you full as well. Enter Chicago-style deep dish pizza. A slice from Lou Malnatis, one of the most well-known deep dish pizzerias in Chicago, can easily run you 700 calories. My deep dish pizza recipe has all of the qualities we love from Lou Malnatis: an authentic butter crust, fresh mozzarella, and a homemade sauce that culminates into what, quite frankly, tastes better than many of the deep dish pizza places I ate growing up. The kicker: this pizza has half the calories. Let's get into it. The dough comes together in just a couple of minutes, but since it needs time to rise, we are going to get it done first. Using a food processor is my favorite way to make dough because it is so damn easy, so that is the tool I will be using today. But you can certainly make this by hand as well. Put your food processor on a scale and add 190 grams AP flour, 40 grams vital wheat gluten, 20 grams cornmeal, 6 grams of sugar, 4 grams of salt, and 3 grams of yeast. If you don't have vital wheat gluten, using all AP flour will work. You will just have to adjust your water measurement since vital wheat gluten soaks up more liquid. I will say buying vital wheat gluten is totally worth it in my opinion because it is about a fifth of the price of protein powder but has nearly the same macros. I also use it in almost all of my dough recipes, so if you plan on making multiple recipes and or meal prepping, it is worth the purchase. Cornmeal is also very different for a pizza dough, but this is what many of the famous Chicago pizza places use in their deep dish. However, if you don't have any on hand, you could replace it with AP flour as well. Blend the food processor for 30 to 60 seconds to get all of these ingredients well combined. Then comes the secret ingredient of the recipe: butter. Similar to cornmeal, this is another key ingredient to an authentic Chicago deep dish pizza and will give us a flakier crust similar to a pie. In this case, we are going to use 28 grams of Kerrygold butter that we are going to break down into 5 to 6 smaller pieces and add to our food processor. Since we aren't using nearly as much butter as restaurants do, I highly recommend getting a high quality butter so that the flavor can still come through when it hits your taste buds. Mix the butter into the dry ingredients for 20 seconds or until it looks pebbly like this. At this point, we are going to let the food processor go while slowly streaming in 160 grams of water. Temperature doesn't matter much here, just make sure it isn't scalding hot or freezing cold. Once everything comes together, I like to let it blend for another 20 to 30 seconds so we don't have to worry about kneading this dough at all. Then flip it out onto your work surface and roll it into the shape of a ball. We will throw it into a lightly oiled bowl, spray the top, cover it, and let it rise for 60 minutes. While the top of the dough rises, let's get our sauce together. This should take you about 10 to 15 minutes to prep, tops. Grab about half of an onion and a box grater. We are going to grate 100 grams of onion, which is not only easier than chopping an onion, but will help melt the notes of the onion into the background of the sauce without being overpowering. Thank you to the B-boy Brian Lagerstrom for the tip on this one. His deep dish video is actually how I found him back in the weeds and sardines days. About a third of the grated onion will be pure liquid, which I drain. At this point, it's time to get a pot preheated on medium heat and get our garlic prepped. Get 15 grams of garlic deshelled and push it through a garlic press. Add 10 grams of olive oil or your oil of choice to your pot and let it sit for about 30 seconds. Then add your onions and garlic and mix everything together. We want the onion and garlic to take on some color, so we are going to let these cook while giving an occasional stir. A few minutes later, they are starting to look golden and the kitchen smells amazing, so it is time to add in 66 grams of tomato paste. Incorporate the paste into the onions and garlic and let it sit. While everything is cooking, we can crush in our tomatoes. For a deep dish, I prefer not only a high quality tomato, but a chunkier one as well. The go-to for this is Cento San Marzano whole peeled tomatoes. Since we are getting them whole, we have complete control over just how chunky we would like our sauce. I find the easiest way to do this is to use the best free utensil we have: our hands. I like to grab one tomato at a time and crush it between my fingers over the pan. I go through all of them until they are gone and dump any remaining tomato sauce into the pot as well. If there are any tomatoes that are too chunky, I will grab them straight out of the pan and break them down even more. Be careful though, the stuff on the bottom of the pan is hot. If you want something easier and slightly less expensive, you can use crushed tomatoes like we used in my $1 meal prep pizza recipe. Then all you have to do is dump in your tomatoes and you are done. I like my sauce looking like this, and I will mix everything together. To finish off our sauce, let's add 1 gram of oregano, 4 grams of salt, and 10 grams of swerve. Feel free to add your sweetener and salt once your sauce is finished. This is just what I have found to be perfect for me over the last year or so of testing this recipe. Finish by mixing everything together and letting the sauce come to a simmer. Once it has, turn the stovetop to low, put a lid on it that lets steam escape, and let it reduce for about 20 to 30 minutes. By the way, I highly recommend, if you are making this anyway, make 2 or 3 batches of dough and sauce at once, and you could put it in the fridge or freezer for storage. Then all you have to do is pull them out and get your toppings ready when you want to make a deep dish. The last component of this deep dish is the toppings, or in this case, the fillings. We only need 3 ingredients, but we need plenty of each ingredient. With the sheer amount of sauce that goes on this pizza, we need to make sure every layer matches the next in flavor. Fair warning, this is not for the lactose intolerant. As you probably guessed, we need cheese, 2 kinds, both mozzarella. We start with low moisture part skim mozzarella. Almost all grocery stores carry this in at least 1 brand, if not more. I have used 4 or 5 brands with very similar results. However, if you can, try and get the Galbani low moisture whole milk mozzarella. This won't make or break your pizza, but will take this pizza from a 9.2 to a 9.7 for just 10 extra calories per slice. You can almost always get it at any Albertsons own store like Jewel, Randall's, or Safeway. And yes, I am dead ass serious that this pizza is a 9.2 out of 10.
If there's one recipe you gotta try, it's this one.
Second, let's talk fat-free cheese. When I lived in Illinois, it was easy to find fat-free cheese, but never could I get a brick of it at the store. Being in Texas now, H-E-B carries a brick of fat-free mozzarella that I highly recommend if you haven't tried it already. It not only has more flavor than the pre-shredded version, but it melts significantly better as well. Again, this will still be a great pizza either way, but freshly shredded mozzarella will beat out a powder-coated, pre-shredded mozzarella any day of the week. Speaking of which, always shred your own cheese when possible. It is just miles ahead in every single way. Put your freshly shredded mozzarella in the fridge until our dough is ready to be filled. While cheese pizza is very good, I always need at least 1 topping. Turkey pepperoni is the star of the show today because it is half the calories and double the protein of regular pepperoni. It tastes nearly as good too. It has been just about 30 minutes and our sauce has reduced significantly. It will thicken up even more as it cools down, so we will take it off the heat and let it sit. Also, our dough has been rising 60 minutes at this point, and we will throw our dough into the fridge for an additional 30 minutes. During this time, the butter in the dough is going to return to its colder state to give our crust a flakier texture after baking. 30 minutes later, the sauce is cooled off and our dough is ready. Lightly dust your work surface with flour and plop your dough down. Then grab a rolling pin and put a little bit of flour both on the surface of your dough and rolling pin. Then using the rolling pin, gently roll your dough back and forth. Turn it 90 degrees and do it again. The goal is to get the dough into a roughly 13-inch circle. Once you have it rolled to your liking, grab your cooking device. For this, I will use a 12-inch cast iron pan. This is just a regular old Food Network cast iron I got from Kohl's for like $20. You don't need anything fancy here. If you have a springform pan, that will work here too, but the browning might not be as good. Whatever cooking utensil you do choose, take 7 grams of olive oil or whatever oil you used for the sauce and spread it around. This oil is going to essentially fry our dough through the conduction of heat from the cast iron and help the outside stay nice and crispy. Now put your rolled out dough into the pan and spread it out, trying to get the crust all the way up the sides of the pan. This is important because it is going to give us room to put all the fillings and toppings we need into the dough, and when cooked, the dough is going to shrink a little as well. This will take a minute or 2 to form it perfectly up the sides, and once finished, it will look something like this. Now comes my favorite part of the recipe, which is the layering. The first layer of the pizza will be 224 grams of our fat-free cheese. Spread it evenly across the bottom of the pan. As you can see, some of the dough shrunk back down the sides of the pan, so right now I'm just going to lift it back up the pan to make sure we get the highest crust possible. Then comes 224 grams of fat-free cheese. Yes, a full pound of cheese goes into this pizza and it is heavenly. Not only does this set the foundation of our deep dish pizza, but the full fat cheese is going to melt perfectly into the fat-free cheese. Any unsuspecting pizza lover you serve this to will not be able to tell that there is fat-free cheese in this deep dish.
Holy Holy shit.
Then comes 126 grams of our turkey pepperoni. Just like the cheese, we don't want to skimp here. The technique for putting the pepperoni down is to start on the rim and work your way in. You want to make sure in every single bite you have at least 2 slices of pepperoni, if not more. Once the cheese is completely covered, I then spread out the remaining pepperoni evenly between other pepperonis until I have no more left. Lastly comes the sauce. We are going to use every gram that we just made. We need the toppings and cheese completely covered, and to get that done to 12 inches of pizza, we need every last bit of it. I try to evenly spread the sauce across the pizza until it is gone. You can then grab a spoon or spatula to finish covering all the toppings in the nooks and crannies. What I find the easiest and quickest is using an even better utensil: your finger. If you wash your hands regularly and are just cooking for yourself or your family, this is my preferred method. All right, this pie is ready to go in the oven, but can we just appreciate how beautiful this thing is? This looks like a restaurant quality deep dish pizza, and it is not even finished yet. Also, this thing feels like 25 pounds in my hand right now, so any questions about how filling these slices are should be answered. We are going to throw this into a preheated 400-degree oven for 30 to 40 minutes. I have pulled this early at 25 minutes, and while it was still very good, the crust didn't have enough time to really get crispy. I highly recommend a 30-minute cook time the first time you try this. Any deep dish you make going forward will allow you to decide if you should keep it in for more time or less time, depending on your oven and personal preferences. The last thing we have to do is put some classic green bottle Parmesan on the top of this thing, and you are done. I would give the pizza about 5 to 10 minutes to cool before cutting, then another couple of minutes before serving. I have burned my mouth too many times, so this is a fair warning for anyone trying to dig in right away. Oh, and the fillings like to fall right off the pizza as well if you don't give it a little bit of time to chill. In just 2 hours, we went from flour and tomatoes to a buttery, crispy, and decadent deep dish pizza that I can guarantee will be the best deep dish pizza you have ever had. You can also feed a family with just this pizza or have leftovers for multiple meals if you are just feeding yourself. Reheat it for 6 minutes in the air fryer and your deep dish will be crispy and as good as new. My $1 meal prep is even easier to make and something great to switch between to keep your meals fresh and exciting. You can also assemble this in just a couple minutes and is great for a weight loss diet or any other diet, and you could check it out here. Until next time, deuces.